Your Life Unfiltered podcast with your hosts, Hitul Bathari and Deepam Jain. In this podcast, we dig deep into the life experiences of our guests to connect the dots between their early experiences and what they're doing today. Before I get started, if you guys are not already connected with Your Life Unfiltered on Instagram and on YouTube, please be sure to give us a follow and subscribe. With that said, today we have a very special guest, Elisha Covey. Elisha, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
I think you did it well. Elisha Covey here. Been an entrepreneur for almost 15 years and have enjoyed it. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
Fantastic.
Thanks for joining, Elisha. Before we talk about what you're doing today, we'd like to go back, to your early childhood, early upbringing. Tell us a little bit more about some early experiences that inspired you or motivated you to do what you're doing today. So things related to entrepreneurship. So things related to entrepreneurship or any creative, ventures that you did as a kid in school or outside of school, things like that. We'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think that as far as being an entrepreneur, I always had that desire. And I think this is the case for most entrepreneurs. We aren't good at being bossed around, or else we would be employees. So you learn that about yourself real quickly, that you're a leader and that you understand how to motivate people to do things and accomplish things together. So my first foray into entrepreneurship and helping staff, make goals happen was my 4 younger siblings. They didn't ask to be, my staff, but they became it. And so whenever there was something that needed to be done, I could easily see, okay, these are the steps to accomplishing the goal, and then bring them in to do that. And I really enjoyed, looking back, I was practicing on them because it's like, okay, how do I get them to do this and enjoy it and then see the benefit that they'll get out of doing this? And so I think I just started young.
That's funny because what that essentially means is that you had a built-in staff. Anything you did, you already had a built-in staff. So
I guess I can thank my parents for that. They always say children are free labor. There you go.
That's funny.
So tell us about your first venture, Elisha. So you obviously did multiple, but what was the first one? How did you get the idea? The first big one, essentially. How did you get the idea? How did you set it up? And, how did you go from there?
So my first real business was Labella Cupcakes. And that came about because I had always been told, if you do the thing that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love to bake. So I was like, okay, well, this must be what I'm supposed to do. I had 3 locations and a food truck. And then my husband now, he wasn't my husband then, but he asked me, how many cupcakes did I need to make to be a millionaire? And I realized very quickly that this was not the ticket and that, it was just a grown-up hobby. And even though I had 23 employees in all of these locations, I still wasn't achieving my financial goals through this. So I had the opportunity to either continue to do it because I loved it or to pivot. And that's what I chose to do.
Got it. How did you come up with the recipes for the bakery? Was that your own, or were you taking inspiration from others? And what was the first location and all of that?
I think that all great works of art, you borrow from others. There isn't something that we're coming up with that is brand new to humanity. You'd have to be probably an alien to do that. So we're always learning and incorporating things that, we've learned from others. So a lot of my recipes, I originally started making someone else's recipe, and then I would make a recipe and think, how could I make this me, or how could I make this, from where it is, how could I take it to the next level? And so over many, many years of baking, because I started doing that as a child, 6, 7 years old, I was already baking. I loved it. Over many years of that, I created my own recipes from all of the data that I had accumulated. And then as I had the bakeries, it was really fun for me to just jump into my femininity and be creative. So once I had my bases, which I think this is a little bit different than the way most people do it, but I had a vanilla base, a chocolate base, and then a fruit base. And once I had those bases perfected, then I could really create anything off of that base and know that it was going to be good. So whenever I went out on dates or anything like that, found drinks that I liked, and then it was always a challenge for me. Like, can I turn this into a cupcake? Or find desserts from other places, that were not cupcakes. And because I love them, could I turn this into a cupcake? So I'm Persian. We love baklava. I'm like always with the baklava and the pistachios. And so, of course, I would turn that into a cupcake. But that's kind of how that came to be.
That's interesting because so you almost systematized the cupcake recipe process because you had the base and then you had inspiration coming from your own life experiences, whether it's like you were saying, you went to a restaurant, a bar, etc. So that's cool. So almost, it's like formulaic to a degree, but not exactly because like formulaic with inspiration.
Exactly. And it's a really nice balance of masculine and feminine that was going on there. So the masculine side of what I was doing was the formulated understanding, the science behind what needed to happen. And then the feminine side was the creativity of like, whoa, this flavor is awesome. And how can I incorporate it into this? So it was really fun.
Okay, wow. So I have a strong feeling, because I know you also did a podcast called The Girlfriends, that you talk about the male and female dynamic on there. If you don't mind, I'd love to hear your take on that.
What about it? Give me a little bit more.
Oh, a little bit more. Well, how does the approaches differ between men and women in anything, whether it's life, relationships, business, etc.? Because I feel like you'd have an interesting perspective just based on the two sentences you just mentioned.
Yeah. So I think that really each of us has masculine and feminine energies inside of us. We both, the three of us have it, and so does everyone else. So the most important skill that I think that anyone can cultivate is understanding the masculine and feminine energies within themselves, how they play out, and then how they can harmonize those to get the results that they're looking for in their life. So for instance, even though I'm a woman and you're a man, I could approach a problem in a masculine way, and you could approach a problem in a feminine way, and we can both actually solve the problem, just coming from different angles. Sometimes one is better than the other from my point of view, like when we're talking about achieving a goal. And so for me, it's been a huge practice to understand what energy do I need to bring to this project? Am I bringing my masculine to this project, or am I bringing my feminine to it? And in business, it's really important to know, because when you're working in your business, that's very masculine. You're doing the things to push your business forward, executing, right? And then when you're working on your business, it's usually very creative and you're talking about new ideas and new things like that. That's very feminine. So it's very important that you understand both and how you operate in them.
Interesting. But I'm going to try to paraphrase what you just said, but are you basically saying that masculine energy is very directional, goal-oriented energy, and feminine energy is more like cultivating, nurturing energy? Is that like the right idea?
I would say that can be accurate. And for me, at least, when I am in my masculine, I'm usually executing. So I see the path that needs to be taken. I see the tasks that need to be done. That's why I say working in the business, it doesn't take creativeness. It just takes putting in the work. So if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to execute it and you're not going to make money. However, if you haven't spent the time to be creative and nurture those ideas and bring them to fruition, then you have nothing to execute on. So it's a marriage between the two that makes the most success.
Okay, wow.
Basically, you have to find the right balance between the two types of energies and make sure they work in sync.
Yeah, I think it's more harmony than balance.
Harmony.
Balance to me means equal, right? They're balanced. That's never the case in almost anything in life. The only thing you want to balance is your checkbook, right? Your bank account. You're like, better balance out. But in general in life, I don't think that there's a time where I've ever been like, oh, I'm going to put 50% masculine behind this and 50% feminine, and it's going to work. Most scenarios that I've run into, I'm operating more heavily in one or the other.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, because you're right, because there's nothing that really involves a perfect balance of the two. It's even if it's 60-40, you can be close to equal, but it's never going to be 100% equal.
Very true. So for instance, with my husband, it's like 95%, 5%. If I come to him in my masculine, he's not entertained at all. It's just like, I'm a dude that he's like, what do you need? But if I come to him in my feminine, then I get whatever I want. So it's like, you gotta learn. It's like, okay, time to switch. When I'm talking to my husband, I better be in my feminine because that's what he's attracted to. And so that's what's going to make our relationship flourish, right?
Yeah, wow, that's a funny way of putting it.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I like it. Just telling you the truth.
If I extrapolate that out, I imagine it's like that from an effort perspective as well, right? There's always one party putting in more effort than the other. It's never, because that's harmony, right? Exactly what you're saying. It's never 50-50. It's always a somewhat equal, but, it's a little off-sided in terms of favoring one side or the other.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It's being able to step back, evaluate the scenario, and see if I come at this in my masculine or I come at this in my feminine, which way is going to get me there, most efficiently.
Okay, wow. So I know you pivoted away from your bakery business and into a different line of business, right? And I was reading through your website. It looked like simultaneously during that time frame, you also changed city. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm originally from the Miami area, and I still have family there, so I go there quite often. My dad moved here in the 70s from Iran, so I'm half Persian, which is one of my favorite parts. Oh my God, I love it. Persians are awesome. I'm so connective and warm and loving, unless, of course, you disrespect them, then it's like the wrath of God is going to come down on you. Like, they're so sweet. And I'm like, yes, but be careful, because as sweet as they are, there's the other side. It doesn't come out often, but if it does, run. But that being said, we moved to Texas with my dad when we were younger, just because he got transferred. And we lived in Fort Worth, and I met Charles, who is my husband, and he lived in Dallas. So I kind of had the decision to make, like, am I going to keep my businesses here in Fort Worth, or am I going to pivot and partner with him? And we decided that, for me anyway, I decided that to achieve the financial goals that I had, the pivot would be better.
Okay, awesome. So you moved from the baking business to what industry? Yeah,
we got into commercial construction together. So this was not something very huge.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
That I knew much about. I did know a lot about managing people. Obviously, I told you I started that when I was young. And then I did know a ton about sales and connecting. And so that was kind of my side of the house of our businesses. Anything that was admin related, HR related, people related, which would include sales, was my thing. And then his was project management, estimating, running field staff. So that's kind of how we divided our companies.
Okay, wow. And is that centered primarily in the South, so like the Texas area, or does that run like nationwide or even international?
Our construction companies, we only service our other companies now. So we don't accept work from outside people. We only do our own. But our real estate company is nationwide.
Okay,
so
wow.
we will develop land anywhere that we enjoy.
That's awesome. Wow. So we also, noticed that the business you started, the construction business, it scaled multifold, right? Which is obviously a huge deal, right? So just wanted to hear your perspective on how did you go about scaling? Because I can understand, there's a lot of challenges that comes with scaling. How do you ensure the quality? How do you ensure, all the processes and operations are flowing seamlessly and all of that? So how did you go about addressing some of those scaling issues for the business?
Yeah, well, I think that first of all, you have to realize that it's never going to be seamless. You're doing something you've never done before. So you're going to fall on your face many times and you don't know what you don't know. So the most important thing that you can do is look for people who have been where you are or are where you want to be, and then ask for help. So that is the biggest key. That will help you from falling more times than you have to. You're still going to fall. You're still going to scrape your knees. You just have to get back up and try your best and be humble enough to explain to your staff or explain to whoever it is that, hey, I'm learning. Thank you for your grace. But I think that that's really important, that you can be humble enough to do that. And then also to celebrate your achievements. That was something that I wasn't good at all. And I think that after many years of achieving great things and goals, I realized that I felt unhappy. And I think that part of that had to do with the fact that I wouldn't stop to appreciate what I had co-created with the universe. And if you do not express gratitude and appreciation, why should you get more? You know?
Right,
Okay.
right. Absolutely.
Wow. So I know you are now involved with many other companies, right? So you've started a bunch of other businesses. Have you found the learnings of that first transition from the baking business to the commercial real estate construction business, like that created that blueprint to know how to get into other businesses? Or like how would you say you've adapted to be able to more easily transition from like one business to another now?
I think that their business is business. And once you understand how it works, then you have basically a skeleton. You're like, okay, so I understand that all businesses need these things. It's just like, you know, if you're a man, you want to date a woman, all women need certain things. You know the gist of it. And then for each woman, it's a little bit different. For each business, it's a little bit different. So once again, understanding that you don't know what you don't know, and then finding people to fill the roles that are not your 8s, 9s, and 10s. So if I'm not an 8, 9, or a 10, I'm not even going to try to do it. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to put myself in their shoes and understand it. That just means that I'm not going to pick that task up and say, okay, this will be my responsibility. Why would you do that? That's the quickest way to make sure that you fail. So you have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then learn how to fill those.
Okay, got it. No, I guess that makes sense because it's a lot easier to scale up if you focus on what you're best at, and then you fill in the gaps for what you're not best at because you know they can do a better job than you can. So it's almost like opportunity cost, except for a time perspective. It makes more sense to.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, ask for help, like you said before, right? Whenever you need to. So.
Mm-hmm. And be willing to pay for it too, because good help doesn't come free usually.
Yeah, exactly. There's a saying that I remember from a while ago, right? And that is, if you want to have like the best type of business structure going on, you always pay the people that have the most impact, the most amount of money. So that'd be, for example, if you have an agent, you want to pay your agent really well. If you have like a lawyer, you want to pay a lawyer really well. If you have an accountant, you want to pay an accountant really well. Because those like 3 functions, these are just examples. There's more functions than that. But like those 3 functions have an outsized impact on your business. So it makes sense to pay them very well to incentivize them to do the best job they can for you.
Agreed.
So I would like to switch gears a little bit. I'd like to talk a little bit more about relationships, dating, and other topics you talk about on your podcast. When it comes to the different episodes you record for your podcast, what are some themes that you think are very important that maybe people may not be aware of, that you found you found that you were able to help a lot of people by sharing those types of concepts and topics? Is there anything that comes to mind?
That's an interesting question. I can tell you the topics that go viral, but that doesn't mean that those are the topics that help people. So it's been very interesting for me to watch people's comments, the way they react and respond to things that I've said. It's not, I don't determine any of this. All that I do whenever I am interviewed or I am interviewing is be authentic. And my most important goal is always to connect. So is to connect with others personally and then help foster connection with others. So sometimes I broach topics that, people aren't comfortable with, that people feel like, they feel very passionate about or can be triggered by. And all I'm speaking is my truth. So that might not be everybody's truth, but if nobody is willing to put the opinions out there and on the table, then we'll never talk about them. So I think that's one of the gifts that I have. I don't mind criticism. It doesn't bother me to hear people disagree with me or to tell me I'm wrong or to tell me they hate what I've said, or that's fine. It wasn't about you personally. There's a bigger picture to things. And the bigger picture is to create connection. And in order to create connection, we have to be authentic. And in order to be authentic, we have to share ourselves. So that's the goal.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, well said. And so you're saying that touching upon those sensitive topics, as well as sharing some personal anecdotes, some personal experiences, that's been your recipe for virality when it comes to your podcast. Is that, am I interpreting that?
You are interpreting it correctly. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was being me. And so hindsight is always 20/20. But looking back, I'm like, oh, that's all I was doing. It wasn't rocket science. It's not like I've got some magic sauce or I've got some crazy thing that's going on behind the scenes. It's just real. So,
Right.
just be yourself and be authentic. And some people are going to love you and some people are going to hate you. It just is the way it is. But like I said, for me, it's about connection.
Right.
Okay.
And just taking a step back, so how did you decide to start the podcast? Was there a trigger or a like moment in time where you decide, oh, some of these ideas need to go out there and people need to hear it? Or was it more like you wanted to start it because you enjoyed speaking about these things just with friends and family, and you thought like more people can benefit from it?
Yeah,
Just
actually,
curious
not
your-
at all. I didn't want a podcast.
Oh,
It started because my mentor told me to do it.
Oh,
So
really? I
he
see.
told me to do it, and I was just like, you know what? If I'm paying you for your advice, then I'm going to do what you say to do. And I think that that's a big key with people. A lot of times we pay, mentors to teach us, and then we don't want to do what they say. And it's like, well, then don't expect to move forward. If someone is doing what you want to do, or you admire them and you want them to help you grow, then when they give you something, you probably need to do it. Now, of course, it's your choice, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Let's do a podcast. No, it was something that he recommended. And then I played around with the idea in my head a little bit. And I was like, I could probably do this. And then I decided to do it. And obviously, we see where that went.
That's very interesting. Wow. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess, what do you think was the thoughts of your mentor on why he suggested or she suggested you start the podcast?
Yeah, I think that he probably saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. So he saw that I was willing to be authentic. He saw that I had, ideas that I could share and that I could bring people together. And maybe he saw it in a way that I didn't see it playing out. So for me, I had always just used those talents inside our businesses. I hadn't ever used it on, mass amounts of people. But if you look at my social media, I mean, you can see videos on there that have 20 million people have seen. So it's just like, there's obviously something there, and he saw it and I didn't. So that's something I'm grateful for.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can totally, I'm just trying to connect the dots there. And at least in my mind, what you said makes perfect sense. But what my mind was, I was also thinking that maybe he was thinking along the lines of, the stronger your personal brand, the more business opportunities and other things will come your way, right? Just because
that's actually very true. And I think that the way that we are progressing as a civilization, that's not going to become untrue. That's going to become more and more valuable. I didn't need that personal brand in our other companies. They were just fine without it. So it had never been something that I really cared to work on. I pretty much just stayed completely off of social media. So this was a very big pivot for me to go from never being on it and not caring to, okay, we're going to do this thing, right? Yeah, because I went from like 2,500 followers on Instagram to over 200,000 in less than 6 months. So it was
happened in less than 6 months. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
did not realize that.
It was
Wow.
it was a huge change, and so for me, it was just like, whoa, this is crazy.
Wow. That definitely shows us a testament to the strength of social media, though, right? Because like, can you imagine that in 6 months going from basically that's 100x increase in 6 months? That's wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And, I could not help but wonder, how do you find or manage time across all of these things, right? Because you have multiple businesses, you have podcasts, I'm sure you have other ventures as well that are ongoing on the side. So what's your secret sauce for managing your time well across all of these ventures?
So I would say I always call myself, I'm an efficiency whore. Like, I love to have things done in the most efficient manner possible. So once I realize, okay, this is a repetitive task, then I'm going to figure out how can I assign it out. So it doesn't need me. It's repetitive. I can find somebody to do this job. And then I find out which person is the best to do the job. And so basically, I'm just extending my capabilities. So every time that I start to feel like probably about to hit a wall, this is all I can do, I start looking for that next person that I need to bring in. So it's about extending yourself always and being able to realize when you are approaching the point of needing that next person. Because for a long time, I would always just be like, oh, I can handle it. Why would you want to handle it? It's like, no, that's not what you want to do. Of course you can do these things. Of course I can do these tasks, but I want to leave space for creativity and growth. And if you don't leave that open space there, you'll get bogged down being in your business, which then turns you into an employee. So you're not a founder anymore. You're an employee of your own business.
Got it. Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, that reminds me of another thing you mentioned just before, which is, taking help from mentors, right? Just curious to hear his perspective on why mentors are important, specifically when, you're involved in different things, right? They can give you some directions and all of that. But aside from it, like why mentors are important, and how did you find your mentor? And this is for all those people who are trying to figure out, hey, who should I reach out to? Who can help me? Who can mentor me?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everybody has their own approach. Usually I go for coaches versus mentors.
I see.
For me, I like to look at where am I lacking? Where do I want to be? And who can take me from point A to point B, right? So for instance, when I realized that my energy was off, okay, I'm operating in my masculine 95% of the time. This is a problem, as my husband is not gay. He doesn't want a husband, he wants a wife. But I couldn't harmonize between the two. I was just once I got into execution mode, I couldn't get myself out of my masculine because it felt good. Executing for me feels really good because every time something's done, I'm getting a hit in my brain of a reward system here. So it's I just want to keep executing things because I'm pushing the ball forward. I'm getting rewarded by the way that I feel, but I'm also getting rewarded monetarily. And what I was missing was that there's also a reward for being in your feminine. It's a little bit harder to quantify on the everyday. You have to look big picture. But when I realized that was an issue for me, this is holding me back and I can feel it. Then I looked for the best coach that I could find in that regard. And then I paid a ton of money to learn. So to me, I'm not looking for a free coach or usually even a mentor, because a mentor is going to give me their knowledge at their pace on their timing because it's free. And I know what pace I like to learn at. So I would rather pay for it. Way I know okay, I'm investing my money here. I'm investing my time here and I'm going to take advantage of it. Right. So I know that I'm not going to just whatever. That's why when my mentors, call them mentors, but coaches really tell me to do something, I take it very seriously because I obviously chose them for a reason. And so I'm giving them a high level of respect in regard to the things that they're giving me as feedback.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah. And I actually like what you said there because the fact that because you're investing in them, you want to take them more seriously. Because you're right. If there's someone that's volunteering their time, their energy just to provide advice, it's you respect their opinion, but at the same time, you don't take them as seriously. So totally.
Yeah. Well, that and you can't even help it. That's human nature. If you're not investing your money and your energy, then it's human nature to take it less seriously. So another thing that I think is mentors to me are more full circle your whole life. This is somebody that I want on my board for my life, basically. So these are the people that I have on my board, and these are the people that I take them big concepts to play with, not a specific thing. So when I have a specific thing I want to work on and improve in a specific area, then I'm going to look for a coach. So to me, a mentor is more full circle.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the added benefit of getting all these really inspirational, knowledgeable people in your life is that it also provides you with diversity of viewpoints, right? Diversity of perspective. So you can start to think of things in different angles by, having people in your ear that are giving you advice. So it's cool because I believe that when you have people with diverse viewpoints all providing you advice, it gives you a more well-rounded view of the world and of the specific situation, etc. So I think from a growth perspective, from a learning perspective, and as well from an execution perspective, you're able to move forward in many different directions simultaneously a lot faster.
I agree with you. It's a great way to summarize it.
Awesome. Just on that, actually, just wondering, do you have any role models as well that you look up to?
This is a funny question for me. I have been asked that before, and I think a lot of people do have people that maybe they idolize or put up on a pedestal, and that is just not my personality. It never has been, and I think that we are all equal. I think that we're all given equal gifts and equal talents. Some people have done a really, really good job of cultivating theirs. And so those are the people that I admire. So I have a lot of admiration, more so than maybe looking up to. I admire people that have figured out the gift that God or the universe or whatever you believe in has given them and really jumped in and honed that gift or skill. So there's a lot of people that I see have done that, and I'm just like, wow, that person is awesome. You know, Michael Jordan, Will Smith. There's plenty of these women, Oprah, Beyonce, Rihanna, anyone that I can see, wow, they took a hold of their gift and they just expanded it to their full capability. Those are going to be people that I admire.
Amazing. Actually, we are ready to move to the next segment, Elisha. It's called Rapid Fire. So, we would like to get to know you better as a person. So, some basic questions. Let us know when you're ready and we'll jump right in.
Go for it.
All right. So I'll start with an easy one. Tea or coffee?
Oh, God. That's not an easy one. If I could only have one.
Oh, my.
You're killing me, man. You said okay, morning would have to be coffee. Like, I really just have to have coffee. But then towards the afternoon, I like tea.
Got it.
No. All right. Mountains or beaches?
Mountains or beaches? I don't like these questions. I'm like, I like them all. It depends on the time of year. If it's fall, mountains, because I love fall foliage. And then if I can be like on the beach and warm, then I will be there. Obviously, you can see it on my. That's what I'm doing.
No, that makes sense. I was gonna figure
Miami originally, so you probably grew up with a lot of beaches.
Yeah,
I like the sun. I'm like, I like being warm.
That makes sense. Okay, hopefully the next one is easy. Morning person or night owl?
I'm a morning person, 100%.
All right. How early are we talking?
Like my morning, like natural clock usually wakes me up about 4.
Oh wow, that is way earlier than I was expecting. I was thinking like 6, 5 or 6, but wow, 4.
No,
4
people
is
are like,
impressive.
Why are you up? And I'm like, because my body woke me up. I don't know what to tell you.
That's a superpower. I think it's a huge one.
So here's a question: what does that mean from when you go to sleep? Then do you go to sleep like super early as well, or?
Usually by like, I wouldn't say I go to sleep super early. I'm usually asleep by like 10:30. But I am definitely winding down. Like my best time to get me is, in the morning hours, probably before, well, even into the early afternoon. But once I hit like 6 o'clock at night, I'm done. So don't ask me any really important business questions. Like I'm ready to chill, have dinner with my husband, go on a date, do things that are, that don't require a lot of really hardcore thought.
Got it.
That makes sense. Okay. What's your favorite comfort food?
Ooh, chocolate, of course.
Okay.
This is cute. I like it.
What's your favorite virtue in others?
My favorite virtue? Ooh. I think my favorite is truthfulness. So being able to be truthful even when it's hard.
Okay, that makes sense. What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve? People that think they're better than others. I can't stand it. I'm just like, I can't with you. Like, we're all equal. When is that going to actually sink in? It doesn't matter what you've achieved, what I've achieved. As humans, we are all equal. And for me, that means that we all deserve respect. So each of us have been able to achieve different things in our lives. Each of us think differently. But for me, that's enjoyable and it's a gift and something to be remembered that it's valuable.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. What's your secret superpower?
Ooh, a secret superpower. I don't know if I have a secret one. I'm like, after being married this long, I don't think there's any secrets. Like, I think he knows all of my talents. But maybe one that...
This is more for like people who don't really know you closely.
People probably don't understand my ability to bake. Most people don't know about that. So they just think I'm a businesswoman. They don't realize that I was a huge baker.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you still bake from time to time still, right? Just keep up
I
with
do
the...
from time to time, but really now I just like to eat baked goods. My favorite thing, it's my favorite thing to do is like go to bakeries and
Yeah.
test out their things because I understand how it's produced. So I have a lot of appreciation for the effort that goes in.
Nice.
Okay. Maybe you can ask for recommendations, your favorite ones, but we'll do it at the end. What's a superpower you wish you had? And it could be unrealistic as well.
Oh, a superpower I wish that I had. Sometimes I wish that I had the ability to feel less. So I think one of my superpowers is that I can feel so many things. Like my ability to feel it on a scale of 1 to 10 is like 11.
Oh
But
my God.
sometimes
Okay.
that can be overwhelming, right? And it can
Right,
be
right.
a little bit stressful because you have to realize, like, okay, what do I want to do with all of these feelings?
So
Got it.
would you say that empathy is also your superpower then? Like being empathetic, being able to like feel the emotions of others? Or are you saying more about your own emotions being overly stimulated?
I think I'm an extreme empath, and I think that comes from my childhood. So I not only can I feel your emotions, I can feel the energy you're emitting, and I can classify it for myself. And normally I'm spot on, and so I feel a lot from others. But then not only do I feel those, I feel my own very intensely. So I might not speak them out, I might not tell people, but that's a lot of energy and feelings to categorize and learn how to respect and honor while still doing the other things that I need to do.
Got it. So
Right.
wow, she has multiple superpowers. It's like as we conversed, more and more came out. Yeah, baking, empathy, ability to feel less, or no, that was the one you want to have. Never mind.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that so I also have Persian friends, Elisha. I have a really good Persian friends. He's born in US, but his lineage is Persian, and he's also very empathetic. He's very energetic, passionate about stuff. So I'm just wondering, how much of this type of nature or these virtues come from just the cultural aspect of things, right? Because some cultures have different way of looking at things, right? Like American culture, for example, is different from Persian. So I'm just curious.
What I believe. Yeah, I think that a lot of it is cultural, but I also think a lot of it is energetic and passed down to us from generations.
Right.
So I would believe that a lot of my empathy does come from my dad's side and my desire to make people comfortable and feel happy and taken care of. That is a huge thing in the Persian culture. And I feel like that has been a big part of my life, my entire life. So I would say that was a gift. And of course I cultivated it and I have learned how to use it, but it definitely, I think, came from that side of my family.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So I guess moving on in the series,
those were easy questions, by the way. You started out with the hardest one. Coffee or tea? What? Why do I have to pick?
Yeah, why can't we go with both? I'm actually both. I love both coffee and tea in their own time, and just I can't pick one as well. So definitely not an easy one.
Have you ever been to Paris?
I have. Yes, I have. I was there last year.
Okay, so have you ever been to Marriage, I think it might be how you say it. Have you been to that store?
I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't know about that. Yeah.
I think they have like 4 locations in Paris, or in like the city center, right, in Paris.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they're over 250 years old. The tea that I get there, I have never found tea of a higher quality. And I love it so much that I ship it back here. I'm just my husband sent me a message because I just got back from Paris, and he was like, "Tea for 2 years just arrived at the house." Yeah, well, because it just does not taste the same here. So I'm like, well, when you find the best, just ship it home.
So you probably like this actually. So Deepam, for his birthday last year, he actually went to like 5 or 6 European countries. He did like a month-long trip and like toured through Europe.
That was
totally, a lot of fun.
I would do that.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, and okay. Thing is, like, you guys both love coffee and tea. Believe it or not, I'm caffeine free.
Oh,
yeah.
Good for you, man.
I think that's actually smart. And usually when we make coffee at home, I always do it half calf. because I really don't care about the caffeine. It's about to me, it's more so the event. I enjoy having the coffee, having the cup, it's just a tradition. Every morning it is that way. And for me, if I don't have it, I feel like I haven't started my day right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like the flavors
Something
and the
is,
experience, or just
yeah.
experience?
It's the flavors, it's the experience, it's the my husband and I like to have morning talks together. He also loves coffee, and so every morning that we're together, since we've been together, I bring him coffee. And it just is a way for me to show love and start the day off that way.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Right. Okay. So after many accomplishments, Elisha, what have been the biggest one in the last 1 or 2 years of yours?
The biggest accomplishment in the last 1 or 2 years. So I think for me, that was really learning, and I am still honing this process, but learning to harmonize between my masculine and feminine. That was a really difficult thing for me to do.
Right,
Just
of
because
course.
the way that our world is set up, it's not set up to accommodate women in the business world. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you guys have always been there, and we're kind of like the newcomers to the party. So of course it's not set up for us. So it's been learning how to maximize that, and what areas can I change and tweak to be more supportive of women, but still get the job done. So it's a very interesting, not a problem, but a very interesting equation to try to solve.
Equation.
And
Okay.
I'm still working on that one, and I love it. It's very fun for me. So I think that is a really big one. And I just finished my first book. So it's a cookbook with all of the recipes from my bakeries. I just kind of felt like they deserved that. So I'm still working on finding the right literary agent for that one, but it's ready to go. So I'm super excited about that. And what else am I super excited about? I founded 2 companies last year, and those are awesome. It's great. So I have a new media company that we're finally now accepting clients, because I like to make sure things are running correct first. But Easy Button Media is my latest venture, which I've truly enjoyed learning that process, building that company, and working with our clients to help them achieve the success that they're looking for on social media, because I know it's difficult. So that's been a lot of fun.
Amazing. Wow. Okay.
One final question would be, what's next for you, right? So you've done a lot of things, but do you have a vision for where you want to take things next?
Yeah, I think this year has been very intriguing for both Charles and I. I was in 2022, and then beginning of 2023, I spent about 30, I don't know why I said that, almost 103 days in Europe. So over the last 12 months, I've been there quite a bit and truly enjoyed that. So this coming year, we're kind of working on like, hey, how does that play out in our life? How can we make it so that I can spend time there and enjoy it there? I very much feel at home there. And so I would like to explore being there more, but also make sure that, my family and the people that are here that I love in the States are taken care of. And, it's always not a balance, because it can't be a balance, but harmonizing your needs and others' needs, right?
Right.
So I think that's a big thing for me this year.
Okay, fantastic.
Great. All right, cool. So before we wrap up, Elisha, do you have any recommendations for our listeners? And our recommendation could be anything: a piece of media, a book, movie, podcast. It could be your podcast, or it could be a general advice as well.
Yeah, so I always like to share books. They're one of my favorite things in the entire world. And I just started a new book. You can see it sitting over there. I'm like, oh, I forgot to pick it up from my reading this morning. But the book is by Julie Smith, so Dr. Julie Smith, and it's the title of it is Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? So she is a psychologist, and I love the way that she is able to take large concepts and distill them down into very understandable things that we can all apply in our life. So I've spent a huge amount of my time reading and growing and learning, and I just love her style. So this book, I think, came out for her last year, and I'm like, oh, no wonder people love it. It's phenomenal.
All right.
Amazing.
Fantastic. So we're right at the end of our conversation here, but before we wrap up, I do want to give you an opportunity to plug any social media profiles or other websites, etc., that you'd like for our listeners to be aware of. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. I mean, if you guys want to hear more, you can easily follow me on Instagram at Elisha Covey. Same thing for TikTok and YouTube. So I'm pretty easy to find if you're looking for it.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this conversation with us, Elisha. It was a pleasure to learn about your perspective, all the ventures you're in, and everything else. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. Again, if you guys are not already following Your Life Unfiltered on Instagram and on YouTube, please be sure to give us a follow and subscribe. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can also give Elisha Covey a follow as well on Instagram and on YouTube. And thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having me, guys.